This is Dr. Trussell. Let's chat about Chapter 12 of Giancola's textbook, Program Evaluation, Embedding Evaluation into Program Design and Development. Chapter 12 is on informing and refining or using your evaluation results. So we go back to this basically at the beginning of every chapter. We've reminded ourselves the purpose of our evaluation. The purpose of an evaluation is to produce actionable findings that can be used for decision making. This decision making might be focused on improving a program or drawing conclusions about the effectiveness and impact of a program, but ultimately aims at improving outcomes for individuals. We want to also improve accountability and help to advance conclusions so that the field of interest can grow as well. So with that in mind, we've learned about our program, we've planned an evaluation, we've conducted evaluation, and now we come to the last step where we're looking at how those evaluation findings now get implemented or used to effect change. So this can be thought of in multiple steps. One is pre-evaluation. So way back when we were planning our evaluation, there were things that we could do to improve the chances that our evaluation results would be used when we are done. So way back in one of the early chapters, we introduced the idea of utilization-focused evaluation. So we focus in the beginning, when we're first planning our evaluation, we focus on how our results are going to be used by stakeholders. It requires a clear understanding of the program. We study questions based on the program's theory, foundation of we need a foundation of mutual understanding of the purpose behind the evaluation between the evaluator and the stakeholders. We need clear communication channels so that to be established with trusted relationships with funders, stakeholders, program leadership, and staff. And ultimately, we're developing a process that requires from the start of the partnership that the evaluation team and the program leadership team define the program, design the evaluation, examine data, determine our reporting mechanisms, all together. We're creating a foundation for collaboration and mutual ownership of the results. And when we do that, we are setting ourselves up for utilization of our results. When everyone involved, when the stakeholders are bought in and feel a mutual ownership in the results, they're much more likely to do something with those results. So we need to know our stakeholders, right? So in the very beginning, in planning, we review the range of possible stakeholder groups, specific facets of government, legislators and staffers, school leadership, corporations, parents, media, lobbyists, anybody who might be interested in our results, whether they're negative or positive. We should already sort of have those groups or individuals in mind. There's benefit to understanding the funding agency, the names of our critical stakeholders within that agency as well, and identifying the perspectives, including historical interests, rationale for the investment, larger portfolios of work that our funder is currently investing in, so that we can better understand the ways that our evaluation might be used, and that helps us sort of in the communication of our results to make sure that we're communicating things in a way that our results are useful. Some important questions to ask as we're understanding who our critical stakeholders are. To what extent should evaluation reporting emphasize some issues more than others? How will stakeholders use evaluation findings? which stakeholders are likely to be critical in order for findings to impact the program or policy. What are some outcomes that may be new for the field or of interest to stakeholder groups, which is just coming to know the work, and to what extent is broadening the appeal of the evaluation findings to those outside of the typical or identified stakeholder groups relevant or valuable. These questions are all listed in the chapter here, and they're just things to keep in mind when you're getting to know your stakeholders. These are questions you can ask that help sort of shape not necessarily the way you collect your data. You still, regardless of who you're communicating your results to, you want to make sure that the results are your evaluation needs to be ethical, and it needs to be thorough, and it needs to and you don't want to present false information, but you will have to make choices in what things, what data you will be able to collect, what things you will be able to disseminate once you put together your results, and how you'll communicate those results. And those are things that it helps to know who your stakeholders are. You also want to know about prior evaluation efforts, historical context. Is your organization likely to use evaluation results or not? What have they done with past evaluations? Did they make improvements or changes based on past evaluations or not? If the historical context includes instances where opinions are sought but not used, future evaluations might bear the brunt and view data collection as a waste of their time. If there's no intention of change, or if the history indicates there's little likelihood of change, lack of use of evaluation findings not only reflects on the program and policy leadership, but also on the evaluation team. And so if you look at the history of prior evaluation efforts and what change did or did not come out of those, and you find that you're dealing with a situation that's a compliance-only evaluation, where the evaluation is only being conducted as a formality to satisfy some regulator or some stakeholder, but there's no intention by program leadership to use the evaluation findings, you may want to move on. That may be an evaluation you choose not to take part in if you don't believe that the stakeholders are truly honest and earnest in their desire to know your results and to use those results to make positive change. You want to begin the conversation about how your evaluation results will be used before you even start the evaluation. It's important to work closely with those who have the authority and ability to make programmatic decisions, and increase the likelihood that evaluation results are useful to and used by program leadership. You want to be sure the process is participatory from start to finish. So we start the process of making sure that our results will be useful and used before we even start the evaluation. But then during the evaluation, we have ongoing utilization efforts. So our evaluation is used for program improvement. This is the whole idea behind these embedded evaluations. We're using our findings as we go for formative decision making. We're shaping and informing the program in an effort to improve program operations and results. Evaluation communication should always focus on improvement. The evaluation communication reporting should include not just your positive findings, but also areas for improvement, things that might not be as flattering to the program, because those are the basis for program improvement. You don't just want to be giving positive feedback if you know that there are areas for improvement, so that your evaluation is useful. As you begin to discuss evaluation results with program leadership, ask them if those findings are what they expected, and if so, ask if they see areas where it can be made better, or if the findings weren't as positive as expected. Ask leadership why they think the program wasn't as successful as anticipated. Keep these conversations going in an ongoing way during the evaluation, so that we can be making improvements as we go and using our results before we get to the end of an evaluation. Summative decision making also can happen during our evaluation. This is where we really are using our evaluation for accountability. We're using our findings to make determinations about the future of the program. We have to sometimes make difficult decisions for effectiveness and impact. We're holding the program accountable for its effectiveness and its impact. Sometimes that means we have to decide whether to continue a program, scale it back, expand its reach, replicate it elsewhere, or discontinue it altogether. But we need to be sure accountability requires us to include all findings, good and bad, and pertains to some specific questions like whether the program was indeed implemented, whether the program funding was faithfully spent on the program, more involved questions, whether the program is a sound investment. So, as I said, it's important that we make sure, if we're really going to use our evaluation for accountability, not just for improvement, but also for accountability, we want to be sure that we're asking the hard questions and we're including all findings, good and bad, about those outcomes and whether they are as intended, so that we can make improvements, but also about the implementation itself, so that we can hold the program accountable for implementing in the way that was planned. We certainly want to make accountability decisions carefully. Evaluation reporting can be used for program marketing or for encouraging new funding, but evaluation findings should include sufficient information for decisions regarding accountability. But we want to be careful that decisions regarding accountability certainly should be made carefully and based on evidence. Evidence from multiple sources derived from rigorous evaluation. We don't want to nix a program or go replicate it based on bad data or not enough data to really know that we're making a good summative decision about our program. Also, during evaluation, we can be doing cost-benefit analysis or cost-effectiveness analysis. So we look at return on investment, the degree to which a program or intervention is efficient, net economic benefit, cost-benefit statistic, where we subtract the total program costs from the dollar value of total program benefits, or a benefit cost ratio, another way of looking at basically the same thing, where we divide the dollar value of program benefits by program cost. So other ways of evaluating, using our evaluation results as we go during our evaluation. We can also use our evaluation during the evaluation to refine our program's theory. The logic model, as we've said before, is not static. It is dynamic. It is something that we can change and should change and update as we learn more about our program and as we learn more about the theory of what makes our strategies connect to or not connect to as strongly as we thought our outcomes and goals. It's important through all of this, and this is for our pre-evaluation utilization efforts, our during evaluation utilization efforts, and our post-evaluation utilization efforts, to remember that people drive action. We want to distribute ongoing evaluation findings through a variety of mechanisms: reports, briefs, infographics, presentations, meetings, conversations. That's critical for fostering use. We can find all the findings we can find, but if we don't communicate those to the people who are responsible for driving the action or changes or improvements in a program, our findings won't be utilized. We want to be sure then, starting before our evaluation even begins, and certainly during the evaluation in an ongoing way, that we're fostering relationships with key stakeholders, that we truly understand. People drive the actions. Sometimes the action is based on data. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes decisions are logical. Sometimes they're not. But if we want to to maximize the potential usability or utilization of our evaluation results, we've got to be sure that we get those results, get that data in front of the people who make decisions. And remember, that influence might occur through indirect methods. Influencing change through evaluation might not always be through formal means. It could be through informal conversations and indirect methods, like identifying change agents, capitalizing on their legitimate power or referent power to influence change. So legitimate power is power that's gained through formal means, like your position in an organization, but referent power is just the power that you have from your personality or your connections with others. It's important to be mindful, be observant of dynamics within an organization, so that we make sure that the right people get the right information and data from our evaluation, so that we can infect change. That last type of power down there, informational power, this is power gained by having access to information that might not be readily known or understood. So evaluators can use informational power to work with those who have legitimate or referent power in order to influence change. People who have the information that's necessary to make changes. Okay, so we can start to utilize our results before we can plan for utilizing our results before we even start the evaluation. We continue to maintain relationships and processes that allow our results to be utilized during evaluation for ongoing program improvement. And then what happens after evaluation? In post-evaluation, after we've collected our data, we've analyzed it, and now we're disseminating it, how does change continue? One way that we can, or one part of that, is meta-evaluation. And there are some critiques on meta-evaluation. Some feel more strongly about it than others. But it's the process of evaluating an evaluation. So it can be used to improve an evaluation and provide feedback and maybe make it more likely to be utilized if we have our evaluation evaluated. But it's also important, as we're thinking about continued change after we've disseminated or are disseminating the results of our evaluation, it's important to understand the change process. People, by very nature, resist change. Even the most open-minded person has at least a little bit of resistance to change. People often change is often met with concerns about stress, anticipation of problems, lots of reasons why it might be easier to maintain the status quo. But it's the foundation and the purpose of our evaluation. It's the whole reason that we evaluate is to effect change and improve processes, improve programs. And so it's important for us to understand how people will react to that change. There are some models for understanding this. One is the concerns-based adoption model. It's a framework for assessing the change process and different stages of change. Based on the questions people are asking, you can kind of get a sense of where they are in the stages of change and how likely they are to actually make changes based on your recommendations. Pretty interesting model. I'm not going to go through it all here, but it's in your text, and I encourage you to read through it. But ways of sort of listening to people's feedback and trying to understand where they are in this process of accepting change and then affecting change, so you understand more about the potential for your evaluation to effect change. Evaluation influence may be greater than just the program that you've evaluated. So Henry and Mark, in a published work, define evaluation influence as evaluation consequences that could plausibly lead toward or away from social betterment. This could come from formative evaluation data where early or intermediate evaluation findings are used by a program, and this use has some impact on society or on humanity, or it could be beyond the individual program itself. Evaluation findings might influence some policy change that impacts multiple communities. But this is just another type of change that we might see post-evaluation, has to do with our evaluation influence that may go beyond our program itself. And last, it's important to keep in mind before, during, and after our evaluation that change takes time. We do an evaluation with the purpose of effecting change, of improving processes, improving programs, but don't get discouraged if you don't see that change immediately. There are several factors that govern change: emotions, skills, capabilities. These all come into play as an individual hears that a change is likely to occur. We've got to understand the details of the change, begin to recognize and adopt a new approach. The embedded evaluation framework lets us show incremental findings as the program strives to achieve the long-term goals, can help to set some realistic expectations regarding the time it takes to observe change. But it's important to remember as an evaluator, and also to continually remind stakeholders, that just because we're not seeing huge changes immediately doesn't mean they're not coming. Change does not happen quickly.